What's going on, all you beautiful people? Welcome to episode number 3 of For the Boys with the number 4 and an IZ at the end because it's edgy. I'm your host, as always, Hunter King. On this week's episode, we're going to preview the championship matchups as well as go over what happened in the divisional round of the playoffs for the NFL. Game 1 we're going to be looking at is Indianapolis versus Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium. That game ended up being 31-13 Kansas City. I don't want to say that I was wrong, but I feel like I overestimated Indianapolis's abilities. They did not show up, and Kansas City very much did show up. I never thought that Kansas City couldn't win this game. On paper, you could argue that they win this game most of the time. It's just that Indianapolis was on such a hot streak, that I felt like they had more momentum going into this game. That wasn't the case, however. Patrick Mahomes ended up going 27 for 41 with 278 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and I believe one fumble. We had Damian Williams with 25 carries for 129 yards and a touchdown. We also had Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Darrell Williams each picking up a touchdown on the ground as well. Travis Kelce led the team with 7 receptions and 108 yards. This was the surprise weakness of the game. Kansas City's offensive line allowed 4 sacks on Mahomes, and their defense picked up 3 sacks on their own. Kansas City just found a momentum early in the game and really dominated. You thought that after that block punt that Indianapolis might get back into it, but Mahomes and the offense just kept them out of it, and they mixed things up on the offensive play calling. They really never let Andrew Luck find a groove, aside from the 1 touchdown to T.Y. Hilton. But it was truly a dominating performance by Kansas City. So now we're looking at the other AFC matchup from last week, the LA Chargers visiting the New England Patriots. That score ended up being 41-28 New England. I'll admit I was wrong on this one. I thought that this would be the year Phillip Rivers kind of gets over that hump. I thought the running backs were a dangerous duo. I thought that they were a really complete team, but New England really kind of put them in a place and proved me wrong. Tom Brady went 34 for 44 with 343 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. We had Sony Michel with 24 carries, 129 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the day. Julian Edelman led the team yardage-wise with 151 yards on 9 receptions. James White led in receptions, 15 receptions for 97 yards. The Patriots defense picked up 2 sacks and 1 interception, and then their offensive line did not allow any sacks to Brady. The offense for New England is firing on all cylinders right now. However, the fact that their defense surrendered 28 points kind of scares me for the fact that Kansas City's offense ultimately is probably better than LA's was. So now, looking at the matchup, New England Patriots versus Kansas City Chiefs. We saw this matchup earlier this season. Week 6, the game ended 43-40 New England. What's different about this game? Well, for one thing, Kansas City doesn't have the same running back. Obviously, everything that happened with Kareem Hunt, they have since parted ways. However, it seems as though the running attack hasn't suffered as much as we might have thought. For New England, we've got Rex Burkhead back. And yeah, he may not be utilized the same way as James White or as Sony Michel. He is still a factor that needs to be taken into account of. He got a touchdown last week. He's something you just can't ignore. Another factor we have is last time it was played in Foxborough. This game is going to be played at Arrowhead. Both stadiums are very much aggressive fans, very passionate about their team. However, weather is going to factor into this game more. It's supposed to be very cold. However, Belichick said that he is ready to play in whatever weather they're willing to give him. And fun fact about this matchup is the Patriots are currently listed as underdogs. And their record postseason-wise as underdogs in games is 3-3. Andy Reid, since joining Kansas City against Belichick and Brady, is currently 2-2. So both sitting at 50%, respectively, for however many games have been played. When I look at this matchup, though, I think now the better defense on that field, especially after what they did last week, is Kansas City. And with it being played at Arrowhead, with Patrick Mahomes playing how he's played, the offense moving how they're moving, I don't think the Patriots' defense will be able to get bailed out by the offense in the same way. So I'm picking the Kansas City Chiefs to make it to the Super Bowl. Now we're going to move over to the NFC, where we have the first game being the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Saints. This game ended 20-14 for the Saints. Drew Brees went 28 for 38, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 1 fumble. Kamara rushed the ball 16 times for 71 yards. Ingram 9 carries for 53 yards. Michael Thomas had 12 receptions, 171 yards, and a touchdown. The Saints O-line allowed 2 sacks, and then their defense picked up 2 interceptions, no sacks. This very much was Philadelphia's game, at least in the first quarter. The back half of that game was all New Orleans, with the biggest mistake probably coming in that fourth quarter drive of Alshon just missing that catch. Obviously, the drive could have stalled after that catch, but when you're the number 1 receiver on a team like that, those are the kind of clutch plays that they really want you to make. Heartbreaker for Philadelphia. However, look at the Saints. Drew Brees was able to guide him back to victory. The Saints defense really stepped up to hold Foles and that rushing attack and those receivers, making limited plays there. Just a really good showing from New Orleans to come back and win that game. Looking at the other matchup, we had the Dallas Cowboys visiting the LA Rams. This game ended 30-22 LA. Jared Goff went 15 for 28, 186 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 1 fumble. C.J. Anderson led the team, 23 carries, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. Todd Gurley, 16 carries, 116 yards, and a touchdown. Robert Woods led the team with 6 receptions for 69 yards. That O-line did not allow any sacks, and then the defense picked up 1 sack, no picks. So we look at this game, and yeah, I expected LA to win this. Probably a better performance from Goff a little bit. It was by no means like a blowout or anything like that. Dallas made it a very close game. Just some poor coaching decisions toward the end of the game, when they could have probably scored a little faster, a little better than what they did. However, LA, kind of that very shiny, robust team right now. They look the best on paper, therefore they're executing the best on the field right now. So now we look at the matchup, the LA Rams at the New Orleans Saints. These teams met Week 9. That game ended 35-45 for New Orleans. Looking at what's different here, C.J. Anderson on the Rams and executing the way that he has. Gurley has been injured, but clearly Gurley can play totally fine. They just now have a ridiculous rushing attack. We have it a rematch at the Dome, so not much has changed there, except for the fact that, to me, the Saints' defense kind of got it together a little better than they had when they had first met. If you look at some of the matchups that came after that game, you see very low scores allowed on that New Orleans defense, which will be a huge factor and kind of was a huge factor in why they beat Philadelphia. Again, when you look at it, you've got very high-powered offenses, shiny names on the Rams, stuff like that. I just feel like the Saints have more momentum right now. However, I could be completely wrong with that, and this new tandem rushing attack of Gurley and C.J. Anderson could be the thing that really puts the Rams over the top. However, I'm going to stick with Breeze, stick with Kamara and Ingram, stick with Michael Thomas, and pick the New Orleans Saints to make it to the Super Bowl. So to recap, my picks are the Kansas City Chiefs and the New Orleans Saints. What do you guys think? Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comment section down below, and please share the video so other people can check out this content. Special shout out to Andrew Holiday for correctly guessing that last week's song was T-Shirt by Thomas Rhett. Think you know this week's song? Feel free to take a guess. Until next time, this has been For the Boys with the number 4 and an IZ at the end because it's edgy. I'll see y'all later.